Is Kenjaku really dead? Would you like to see him return to the story? And if so, what would he bring to the story at this current stage? Just a disclaimer, guys, as of this recording, the latest chapter is chapter 258, where Yuji and Sukuna are really going at it. So if some of the stuff that I am saying in this video are becoming outdated, well, that is why. But I feel it's still a relevant topic. Now, is Kenjaku really dead? Well, in chapter 243, we can clearly see Yuta slicing his head clean off. That is without a doubt. But there has been discussions amongst the fandom on what Kenjaku really is. Is Kenjaku the body of the person that he's possessing, or is he the brain? Kenjaku, whilst he was possessing Geto's body, Geto was already dead. And when Kenjaku made the reveal to Gojo that Kenjaku was possessing Geto, he made it a big deal by showing the brain of Geto clearly being possessed by Kenjaku. This was showed as a massive reveal, so shocking that it made Gojo lose focus and as a result got trapped in the prison realm. So in my opinion, and I'm sure in many fans' opinion as well, Kenjaku is not the body itself, he is the brain. Now if we go back to chapter 243, we can clearly see his head sliced off. No problem, that's fine. But then in chapter 249, Yuta stabbed him through the forehead, targeting his brain, essentially killing him off for good. So is that it then? No more Kenjaku for the remainder of the story? I don't think so. I think of course we will see more Kenjaku in this story through flashbacks, just like how we are constantly seeing Gojo through flashbacks. So there's no doubt there that we will see more of Kenjaku, but for me, Kenjaku's last words didn't really feel like a character saying his last words. He says in chapter 249 that it wasn't 1,000 years worth of fun, but he is glad that he fooled around with that guy in the end, meaning Takaba, as he was fighting against him before Yuta came in and sliced him. He then carried on by saying, "You guys are next. I'm sure it will be amusing." That doesn't sound like a guy saying his last words. He said, "You guys are next. I'm sure it will be amusing." That sounds like someone is looking forward to watching Yuta, Yuji and Sukuna fight rather than handing the torch over to Sukuna. Like how Nanami said to Yuji, "You've got it from here," as he was dying back in the Shibuya incident arc. So to me, it sounded like Kenjaku's last words are of him saying that he looks forward into watching the following conflicts unfold. And when you look back at Kenjaku as a villain, he has always been a spectator. During the Shibuya incident arc, he was always lurking in the background and watching everyone else fight. Yeah, he had a scuffle with Mei Mei in the middle, but he never really went all out against her. He then reappears right at the end of the arc to kickstart the Culling Game story arc. Even in the earlier arcs, he's always lurking in the background, watching. It was the disaster curses that were fighting off against the Jujutsu sorcerers, whilst Kenjaku is being the mysterious observer. So him saying, "I'm sure it will be amusing to Yuta" in chapter 249, that's not out of character. He is the great observer of this series. Now, the obvious elephant in the room, how will he come back? Well, I'm thinking Sukuna may end up doing the same ritual that the old lady used in order to bring back Toji Fushiguro by using her grandson as the vessel to allow Toji to return from the dead. This goes in line with all the dark rituals that Sukuna has been doing. Sukuna before the Gojo fight did a bath ritual in chapter 216, which will sink Megumi into further darkness. Maybe there's more dark rituals that we are not aware of and that Sukuna is willing to do more dark cursed magic to bring back Kenjaku. In chapter 249, Kenjaku mentioned that Sukuna has undergone the ritual of succession, meaning he will now take over Kenjaku's place. But what if Sukuna doesn't want that responsibility? I made a video recently comparing Sukuna to a typical Saiyan from Dragon Ball Z. Sukuna is a fighter and likes a challenge. He isn't the type to come up with 4 or 5 different plans to take over the world. If Sukuna wanted to do all that, then he would have just done it through brute force. He is the strongest of all time after all. So I can see Sukuna after all the fighting is done and say Sukuna wants to take a break from the fighting and just wants some recovery downtime. In that period, he can bring Kenjaku back to life and let him carry out and finish the plan that he started. But yes, in my opinion, I think Sukuna can bring Kenjaku back to life the same way Toji was revived back in the Shibuya incident arc. Kenjaku is a special grade level cursed spirit as well, and all he needs is a body. So you just need to find a body that can allow Kenjaku to be the vessel. And we are currently in a brutal fight against Sukuna where plenty of Jujutsu sorcerers have already died. So there's plenty of options for Sukuna to use. Now, whether they have any cursed energy for Kenjaku to use is a different matter. But let's just say for the sake of argument that whichever of the Jujutsu sorcerer's bodies Sukuna uses to revive Kenjaku doesn't have any cursed energy for Kenjaku to use when he is revived. That, for me, doesn't matter because, like I said earlier, Kenjaku is the observer, the grand planner, and the mastermind behind everything. Even the birth of Itadori Yuji, he has something to do with it. So for me, he doesn't need any special powers. All he needs is his brain. Sukuna is there to be the muscle and powerhouse, whilst Kenjaku can carry out his plans, and this goes back to the words, "I'm sure it will be amusing." He wants to witness his plan carried out and be a success and let Monster Tengen loose onto the world. So why would he want to fight when all he wants to do is watch his plan be finished and to see the carnage unleashed when he completes his plan? From looking at the story, Kenjaku is the opposite to Sukuna. Sukuna loves fighting and wants a challenge, whilst Kenjaku doesn't really seem like he cares about fighting. All he wants to do is cause chaos with his plans. Now, in my opinion, given the recent law of having Yuji being related to Sukuna, Kenjaku is heavily involved with everything. There's so much more lore and history behind the three characters, which can be explained through a flashback, of course. But I feel reviving Kenjaku will open up more lore and history of the world of Jujutsu itself. I personally would like for him to return. His death, whilst it made sense for Yuta to be the one to finish him off, as he made a promise that he will be the one to do it, it still feels like an anticlimax. For him to just die suddenly like that, I'm not saying he deserves a big bombastic death scene, but given that he was the main driving force for the antagonists, I expected a little bit more. I mean, look at Sukuna right now. This guy is fighting off against everyone. If this guy were to die soon, you can at least say this guy fought against every Jujutsu sorcerer, including the strongest of the modern era in Gojo. He fought against everyone and defeated everyone. If he were to die, you can say this guy had an epic death because of the sheer volume of work he has been doing this entire arc. Whilst on the other hand, Kenjaku's last fight was against Takaba. Now, don't get me wrong, the fight was entertaining and funny, but when you compare the epicness that Sukuna is doing with each of his fights, and then you have Kenjaku have basically a banter fight against Takaba, you know there could have been more epicness for Kenjaku here. But that's my take on it. Whether Kenjaku returns, I'm not too sure, but I think there is room for him to return and for him to have a massive role in the finale of the story. But let me go over to you guys. Would you like for Kenjaku to return? If so, give me your reasons why you want him to return and your theories on how he's going to return. I look forward to reading those comments, and just like your tribal chief always says, don't forget to subscribe to the Shaman Tribe.